Do you understand why you're here?
Yes, ma'am.
Toya Brown left prison early this morning.
The now 31-year-old was granted an early release from her life sentence.
Brown was 16 at the time, but under Tennessee law was tried as an adult and sentenced to life in prison for murder.
I have prayed for a very long time to be able to meet with you. I am a changed person because I have no choice but to be.
At the age of 16, sex trafficking victim Toya Brown was tried as an adult for killing a man who had picked her up at a local Sonic to have sex with her.
He just grabbed me like in between my legs, like he just grabbed it real hard.
She was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Today, after spending 15 years in jail, she walked free.
Toya Brown spent nearly half her life behind bars, and during that time, while she was here at the Tennessee Prison for Women behind me, she earned her associate's degree and inspired scores of people to champion her release.
Her case captured the eyes of the nation, with many celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Rihanna advocating for her release, stating that she took action against her would-be predator after spending years being abused as a sex trafficking victim.
That I was slipping and that I was starting to become a slouch, that I needed to get out and get on my grind and get some money. One time, the first time he did something to me is when he choked me and I passed out.
Now, I myself have covered her case extensively, and thanks to the tireless work of activists and local organizers in Tennessee, Governor Bill Haslam took the unusual step of granting Brown clemency for what he had called a tragic and complex case, and so she was granted that clemency and subject to release. Since Brown's case, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that mandatory life sentences without parole for juvenile offenders are not constitutional. But despite this, months prior to Haslam's decision to grant her clemency, Tennessee prosecutors actually successfully argued that Brown would technically become eligible for parole after 51 years, that being in 2055. Brown, who is now 31 years old, was among more than 180 inmates serving life sentences in the state for crimes they committed as teenagers. Now, while in prison, Brown obtained her GED, finished her bachelor's degree, and actually mentored at-risk youth, which is something she has vowed to continue upon her release.
Now she says she wants to use her experiences to help other women and girls escape exploitation and abuse.
Now, the reason I took such interest in this case was that I felt it perfectly exemplified how the system comes down with a hammer on the most vulnerable, marginalized members of society, but then coddles the wealthy. Brown was a victim of sex trafficking as a child, something Jeffrey Epstein, for example, engaged in. But yet he was given a sweetheart deal and served only 13 months, with weekly visits to his office, by the way, before journalists and advocates pried open the case for further review. And now it seems justice is being done, albeit late, in Epstein's case.
Just in, a judge ruled this afternoon that federal prosecutors broke the law when they signed a plea agreement with Jeffrey Epstein. That's because the agreement was hidden from 30 of his underage victims.
And there are countless examples of the system working in favor of sexual predators who happen to be wealthy and against victims. And that's something Toya's case has shed an enormous light on.